All right, welcome everybody, Championship Leadership Podcast, and today we got Jeff J. Hunter, the Savage Marketer, and just excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for being here.
My honor.
Yeah, man. So we've had a little time to visit before hitting record here and putting on the green light as far as the episode goes, but I always love to ask this question. The name of my podcast is Championship Leadership, and so I always like to get what do you think of when you think of championship leadership? Like, what does that mean to you when you think about that?
Well, if you break it down into two things, you've got leadership, which I think all entrepreneurs are really leaders. Not everybody's a leader, but definitely most entrepreneurs are leaders. And of course, championship, meaning that you're top of class. So I think of how can you truly be, best in class in your industry. And that's what I think of.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I just love hearing, this is like the 51st episode and I've gotten 51 different definitions. So it's just awesome to always hear what people have to say and what it means to them. Why don't you share with the audience here, like your story, because you had an incredible story where you come like the Savage Marketer, the branding expert. You actually just had an article in Forbes come out today, 7 tips of hiring as an entrepreneur. I know you got an incredible process for hiring and outsourcing help. And so just love to hear kind of how you got to where you are today, because it's a great story. So,
wow. Well, I've always been in IT. I've always been a little geeky. I've always loved playing video games and things when I was a young kid. And to be honest, I always considered myself more of a IT guy. So for me to be in the branding space is a little bit interesting. And the journey happened when I was working as a project manager at a Fortune 500 company. I had actually been promoted. I was one of the most senior project managers at the company. And I had just got a promotion and a raise. And I felt like there was a lot lacking in my life. And I got really good at building virtual teams. As a project manager in the new world, virtual teams, there's hardly anything that you can't do today virtually.
Yeah.
So I got really good at that. And I started building my own team on the side just to do like web projects. And I always loved marketing, but I never really went all in on it.
Yeah.
But I was doing like web projects, little social media stuff, and really didn't understand the value of what I was doing. I think I was probably just going online, just trying to get my feet wet.
Right.
And then I really landed on social media. I loved social media. It was so fun for me. And I started doing some stuff on social media, and I got featured in like an Inc. magazine article or something about how to outsource social media and things. And it actually caught the wrong attention at my Fortune 500 company. And yeah, I got written up for being distracted.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the infamous PIP, the Performance Improvement Plan. I got one of those. Yep. So, anyone from the corporate world knows what a PIP is.
Yeah, right.
So, and anyway, I just was like, you know what? Is this really what I want to do? And at the time, my virtual kind of side hustle wasn't really making me money, but I knew that I could figure out a way to do it. And trust me, as a young 30-something-year-old guy moving in with his grandparents, because I didn't even have a clue what I was doing and I wasn't profitable, I just quit my 6-figure day job, said, I'm tired of being treated like this. I'm going to do my own thing. And I'm going to start this virtual assistant business, which is what I started. It's called VA Staffer. And that was my first leap, I guess. And ironically, I sent in my resignation letter on February 29th of 2016, which means this is the first anniversary year, even though it's been 4 years.
Yeah.
This is really the anniversary next year coming up. But what's the interesting journey from that is that within 3 years of doing that, I garnered the reputation of the king of outsourcing. And I thought that's what my calling was. I thought that since I was in IT and I was in project management and I was good at building virtual teams, that was my destiny.
Mm-hmm.
But what I started realizing, podcast interview after podcast interview, and then in my very first speaking engagement in 2016, that actually I was good at building my own brand. And it took someone else to tell me that. They said,
Yeah, right.
someone else told me and said, you built this incredible brand as the king of outsourcing. And I was like, I didn't think of it back then. But then I started realizing, okay, what was I doing for other people? I was doing social media. I was doing marketing for them. I was building funnels and websites. I was helping manage their existence online, their presence. And I said, oh my gosh. And there was a light bulb that went off. And basically, I started treating myself as a client, started building my own brand, started posting my own content, having my team create content for me. And just like I shared with you before we started, I'm finally launching my own podcast, The Savage Marketer.
No doubt.
Right? I mean, I've been helping clients launch podcasts and books and all this stuff for years, but I never did that for myself.
Yeah.
So in a way, the journey, it's kind of a circle.
Yeah.
I unintentionally built a brand, and now I'm intentionally building a brand. And now that I figured it out, I help other people build intentional brands, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. And that's an incredible journey to be on. And, you know, I mean, it's kind of the way it goes, right? Sometimes we just kind of fall into something. We're doing one thing that we think is the path. And then we realize that, hey, wait a second, like actually I'm really good at this over here. And so that's what's great, as long as you're open to it, right? And I think as a championship leader, like those are great signs, great qualities, characteristics of championship leaders, is willing to kind of just recognize those. And then the big piece is, once you recognize it, to actually willing to act on it and execute.
Absolutely. And, you know, since we're thinking about championship, you know, it's hard to think about championship and not think about sports.
Yeah.
And I think a great analogy actually of my own life and my own journey was that I was really good at what I did. I was really good at being a project manager. I was really good at building virtual teams. You know, even today, like today, the thing I was featured on Forbes about was about hiring tips. I'm really good at hiring people.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've hired a lot of people, hundreds of people, and I've hired hundreds of people for other people, right?
Yeah.
As the king of outsourcing. So what's really interesting here is that, you know, I used to think that was my passion and my drive and my love. But think of it back to a kid, sports. Like my 7-year-old, I have a 7-year-old son. His name's Jesse.
Yeah.
And he's been in soccer now for 2 years. And he hated soccer. He didn't like it. He didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
He was the kid dancing out on the field instead of actually scoring the goals.
Oh, yeah.
But now 2 years later, you know, he feels better. He's grown a lot. He's the tallest kid in his class. He's starting to shoot and he's starting to score. He's starting to get more goals per game. Well, now soccer's become fun to him.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, he was not good at school yesterday, and we didn't let him go to soccer, and he was so disappointed. The opposite.
Oh, yeah.
The opposite of when we used to drag him to soccer.
Yeah, right.
Now soccer practice is something that is a leverage tool for us as parents.
Yeah.
For his bad days. So I kind of relate that to myself. You know, when I first started out in my business in IT, I didn't really, it was reluctant, and I started doing a little bit better. And when I started really honing in on my project management skills, I started getting really good results, and people started loving those results. I started falling in love with the reactions of people and the success that I was getting for other people, but it wasn't really my passion. It's still something I'm really good at, and I'm super grateful that I know how to do project management, because in the entrepreneurial world, it's slim to none.
Yeah, right.
You know, championship leaders, if you guys know how hard it is to manage a project, and how valuable how valuable having that skill is. So I think that's one of the ways I was able to advance myself, is because, you know, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, like most people in life, and I got really good at something. And when I got really good at something and I saw other people loving what I'm doing, I thought that was my passion. It wasn't until I really took a hard look at myself and said, is that really what burns my soul? Is that the fire that's lit inside me? Is that something that I really want to do every day for the rest of my life? And I have to tell you, I used to tell myself yes.
Yeah.
But man, working with amazing people like I do right now, helping them build their brands. I'm actually having fun building my own brand. I'm treating myself like a client. It's just opened my eyes to a whole different perspective on the value of a brand. And that's what I've dedicated my life to doing.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, let's talk about that. Like you built a brand for yourself, right? And kind of unintentionally, you didn't realize that, hang on a second, like it kind of took other people to come in and be like, hey, like you are pretty good at this, to get you to then go and to help others elevate their brand. Like, what is the importance of an individual brand for people? That's definitely a popular topic. People are focused on building their brand, right? And yeah, just talk to us a little bit about the importance of that. I know you mentioned, it's not only just the brand, it's what's your audience, where's your audience hanging out? Because yeah, I get it. Like, yeah, I get caught in that trap too. You just feel like you got to put your brand and your message everywhere and just hope that it lands somewhere for someone. And that's kind of like the shotgun effect, right? Which probably isn't the most effective or efficient plan to go with.
And I think that a lot of that is driven because of there's certain marketers that are always telling about how they need to be everywhere all the time. Not really. To be honest, I think that if you just really hone in on like one or two platforms and just really start building your audiences there, all you need is like 1,000 like really strong fans, fans that will comment on all your stuff, like all your stuff. And you do that by really investing in them and showing the value for them. And that all starts with, like what you said, knowing your audience. So for me, my audience is similar to yours. Most of my audience are people that are business owners, founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, people that are really like forgers. Obviously the Savage Marketer brand is really about savage marketing, and most entrepreneurs that I know, they have a little savage inside of them, right?
Yeah, like, definitely.
We have to put up with some right? Yeah, right. We have to put up with some real crap in our lives, and and it's stuff that most people in life will never understand, like having to swipe your credit card to do payroll one time because you're waiting on an invoice that didn't come in, right? I've done it. Hell yeah, I've done it. A lot of people have. And I can tell you that most people that are building a business, man, they are savage. So for me, like that's my demographic is people who are really, forging the way, right? And they want to be industry leaders. And I'm really looking for me personally, I like to work with people that want to be the influencers in their space. So to go back to your question about where you need to be, the right question is where your audience is. Yeah. So for me, I really focus a lot on three main platforms. Facebook. I love Facebook. I think Facebook right now, the audience is there. And I think the age level is right. I think, the 30 to 40, 50 range, like that's where I live. Yeah. It's great. Instagram is a little bit of a younger crowd. It's very useful, especially for more like product-based things, e-com stores, things that are very product focused. And it's also strong for influencer brands. And to be honest, if you're not on Instagram, like you don't exist right now. Like, so Instagram is kind of like, for me, it's more of a vanity metric. It just makes me look cool. I've got my 11,000 something, almost 12,000 followers. But for me, my gold, my money maker is Facebook and LinkedIn. Okay. Facebook and LinkedIn. LinkedIn I love. And I think right now it's such an underutilized platform because the reach on it, the organic reach, like you being able to post something and it being seen by tons of people, huge. It's like what Facebook was 4 years ago, and it's just incredible. So like I'm getting tons of content. Matter of fact, just yesterday, I wrote a Facebook post about Randy Zuckerberg. Her and I were hanging out over the weekend and we were talking about, ironically, teams. And we were talking about how important it is as an entrepreneur, as a leader in a business, to have like those 5 core people on your team that are just willing to do whatever it takes. They're willing to come in on the weekends if there's a project that's not doing right. They're willing to do the long hour, a 20-hour day if something's not doing right. Like, you're not going to be able to build a business the way and have really strategic growth if all you have are employees that clock out at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right. So her and I were talking about that, and I kind of wrote a post about it. And that post was featured on LinkedIn yesterday as the #1 top post for the teamwork hashtag, which is 56,000 posts or 56,000 followers. So 56,000 people, because I'm #1, got to see that featured post. I mean, where can you get that type of reach? Facebook doesn't use the hashtags anymore. Instagram is, I mean, I don't know. The Instagram hashtags, everybody's using them, and there's all sorts of bots. Like LinkedIn right now just has massive organic reach. Facebook, I would say, has about half the organic reach of LinkedIn, but still super valuable. So it's really important to understand your audience, where they are, and the type of content that really resonates with them so that you can be top of mind of them all the time.
And where does YouTube fall in that chain?
So that's funny that you say that, because I am slacking on YouTube, and I just had an incredible experience actually just this weekend. I interviewed one of the top, matter of fact, his book is still the #1 YouTube book in existence, called YouTube Secrets. His name, Sean Cannell. I don't know if you know who Sean Cannell is.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was actually episode number 11 I interviewed over the weekend for Savage
Oh, no way. Awesome.
And I just was like, oh my God, I'm so stupid for not having YouTube Game right now.
Yeah.
So I'm actually excited because you're already ahead of the curve. I am so behind the curve. So all my episodes, I'm going to make sure that I do that. And he gave me some really cool advice too. He talked about how not only should I do my episodes on YouTube, but I should also do little Savage marketing tips and things like that, like little tiny mini episodes, that are like 5 to 8 minutes long, that just break down a certain tip here and there. So you could probably use that too. But
yeah, no doubt.
Definitely need to get my YouTube game on. It's still the #2 search engine on the planet, and I'm still not using it. So I will bow down to you and say,
well, a lot of us. I mean, I just in the last few months have really started to focus on it, and but yes, I have been putting my episodes up on YouTube since I started about 1.5 years ago, and I tell people, I'm like, not too many people are watching these episodes right now, but someday they will. So
that's exactly what all the top YouTubers say. They always said that no one watched their videos when they first came out, and then over time they build up, they get their following, and like I said before, like the resonating thing I've heard over and over is that you just need those first 1,000 people. The first 1,000 people that just always log into your stuff, that are always watching your videos, that always comment on your stuff, that share your stuff. Like, it's so important to develop that fan base. And, it's incredible because the podcasting thing is new to me. I've been doing it with my clients and stuff for a long time, but I haven't done it for myself. But one of the things that Sean said that really stuck out to me was that you don't have to be great to start. But you have to start to be great.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true in everything in life, right?
Right.
Definitely. So well, talk to me. Yeah. Who are some of the championship level leaders that have impacted you, that have helped you to get to where you are, to, this expert in what you do is branding, Savage. Like, I love the word Savage is so strong and powerful, by the way. It's just like, that's epic. So I love that. But yeah, who are some people that have impacted you either directly or indirectly to get you where you're at?
I'd have to say some of my clients who have really pushed me, and, shout out to actually Doug Harrison, who is my mentor, who helped me in my branding journey as well. Doug Harrison, he's worked with the biggest brands, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, Amazon, Disney, you name it, he's worked on them. Matter of fact, if you've ever seen a Coca-Cola commercial with a polar bear and a penguin, you can blame Doug. That was the happiness campaign that Doug worked on. But he's the one who told me, he said, Jeff, you need to go all in on this. And, I was doing so many different things, and it's just so nice to have clarity, and not just clarity, but validation, to hear someone like Doug listen to what I'm doing and give me advice, and also see the different methods that I'm using for my clients, and telling me that not only was it great, but he wants to do it. He wants to come on board and have us do it for him. It was just like, wow, and I think this is what's cool. And you and I talked about this before the show, but it's actually not really hard right now to be the top dog in your industry. It's not, because
Really?
That's right. Because social media is still so underdeveloped for most of these influencers, as we say, and in most every industry. And the people that are putting out the huge content all the time, Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, right?
Yeah.
Look at, just think of the biggest names out there. Like who else is that big? Maybe like Jay Shetty, who I just hung out with Alex Kushner, who is Jay Shetty's business partner, just last week. And we're going to do some collabs on stuff. It's like the market is so small right now because no one's doing the content, and no one's got the commitment and dedication to truly put out the level of content that is the threshold is low. Like to influence your space right now, the threshold's low. When everybody starts catching on, and everybody's got a podcast, and everybody's putting out video, and everyone's doing the stuff, then it's going to be hard. Right now, no one's doing that, right? So
it's interesting to hear you say that, because when you're in that space, you kind of feel like everyone is doing it, but I think sometimes you just because that's all you see in your feed is other people that are kind of in that similar space, and then you kind of
hold on. That's interesting you said that, because you said something very important.
Yeah.
Because every time you go in your feed, you're seeing people do that. Because guess what? That's the stuff that shows up in your feed.
Right.
So what is stopping you? What is stopping all of us from being that, from putting that content out that's showing up in everyone's feed, right? Mm-hmm. There's a reason why they're seeing such massive growth, and that's because they are putting out the content that it takes. Just like what I was saying earlier, like if you put out video content, you take this podcast episode right now, and you chop it up into a value bomb, like this little 60-second value bomb right now, and you take that, you put a big bold headline and saying, this is why I show up in the top of your feed. Like that's the headline. And it's me telling you, or us having conversations saying no one's doing the work, that no one's putting out content that needs to, and how easy it is to dominate industry and whatever we say. And then you put that video frame really attractive with a progress bar going across with some captions down below and just nice and clean and easy. And people love that. People love the ability to just look at something and consume something. Your job as a creator is to make content very easy to consume so that people want to consume more of it. That's it. That's your job.
Yeah. That's, I love it. It's huge. And cause it does feel that way sometimes, like the market is saturated, but it's just a good reminder that, it's not. And some might be around for a little bit, but then, the consistency is like, that's what really wins too, right? Like just the long haul.
So depending on when this episode airs, it's probably going to be in the past, but I'm speaking next week at the Global Marketing Day here in San Francisco. And I have to admit, it's interesting how the opportunity came up, and I want to give a shout out to one of my favorite friends, clients, mentees, mentors. Her name is Ai, and she recommended me to be a speaker on this panel. And it's funny because they always check out who you are before they invite you. And at every event that I've ever been to, or every event that's ever in existence, there's usually some sort of an application process or a vetting process or whatever. And what was really incredible about this, the validation of my own personal brand, was that I introduced them to me, and she gave them links to my Facebook and my website. And I didn't have any of that. They just said, oh, wow, honored. We love your content. Here's all the speakers that day. You pick which one you want to hang out with and do your panel on. Pick
no
two.
Way.
Pick two. I'm not speaking once. I'm speaking twice.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
and it was complete validation at that moment that everything that I'm doing, because trust me, guys, sometimes you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, I don't want to do this today.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm going to be honest. I remember seeing this podcast pop on my calendar. I'm like, damn, another podcast.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
And
I get it.
sometimes,
Yeah,
and sometimes it can be like that for you,
Yeah.
Nate. I'm sure for you,
it is.
especially.
Yeah, sometimes it's the same way. I'm like, oh man, but it's always, once I get into it, it's great. But yeah, absolutely, I can definitely resonate with that.
And it's so painful sometimes for people to create content and be creative, and it's always ironic because that's the stuff that really draws people in. You know, a lot of people think the top of your funnel is your lead magnet or whatever else. Like, no, the top of your funnel is your content. Your content is your brand awareness. Your brand awareness brings people into seeing, hey, how do I learn more about Nate? How do I learn more about the championship leaders? You know, how do I learn more about Savage Marketer or whatever? And your job is to pique people's curiosity, to show them that you've got something figured out and that you can actually show them how to do it too. And that's really what you need to do in all this type of content.
Yeah, that's awesome. What tell me about a time in your life where, you know, there was this, what I'll call a significant turning point, or like just a critical moment in your life where you could have very easily had made the decision that everybody else probably thought was the best decision for you, maybe to play it safe or to go the path that with the least resistance, right? And had you done that, you wouldn't be sitting here on this podcast today. Savage Marketer may very well not be around. Like your life could look very different had you not chosen. You know, again, championship leaders are always looking to make the not necessarily the popular decisions, but the ones that they really believe in.
The savage decisions.
The savage decisions. So yeah, like, is there a moment that's present for you that, you know, had you not made that decision, you could be doing something completely different? Your life could be completely different.
I was hoping that you wouldn't say this. That's a question that I definitely hope you didn't ask.
Yeah.
Because I kind of skipped over it a little bit when I was telling you about my young 30s with a 3-year-old kid moving in with my parents. After leaving a 6-figure job with a company car, company phone, company computer, gas card, they let me spend $75 a day on food. Okay.
Wow.
That's how I got fat. And not to mention a 401k, a 150% 401k match, which means for every dollar I put in, they put $1.50. I mean, it was literally like the best job you can imagine. I had a brand new company car every year and a half. They gave me a new lease. It was really incredible. I mean, like you said earlier, that was safe. That was a really incredible job. And even when they wrote me up, they had no intentions of firing me because it's so expensive to replace me. I was the senior project manager.
Yeah.
And I was, as a matter of fact, when they wrote me up, I was still training 4 other project managers.
Wow.
I was mentoring them. So it was mind blowing. But, you know, to be honest with you, I remember the day, you know, it wasn't just like a light bulb moment where I was like, hey, I just want to quit today and start my own business. It was a sequence of events. The first event was in 2012 when I accepted the position. And when I accepted the position, they told me that because I was moving from here near the Bay Area, California, and I had 2 options. To take this job, I had to either move to Seattle or I had to move to Portland. It was a regional project management job. And I was basically responsible for all projects in Washington, Oregon, Alaska, Montana, Idaho, Northern California. I did some random projects in like Florida and Boston and stuff like that. And I became what they call a first of kind, FOK project manager. So I was doing all the risky stuff, you know, and I was working in hospitals, by the way. I was doing all the IT patient care infrastructure for hospitals for Philips Electronics.
Okay.
And so it wasn't like a job where like things can just go wrong and you're like, oh, that's okay. You know, like I'm not installing toilets. Like this is like patients are connected to these devices.
Yeah.
It was very stressful. At any given time, I was doing 50 to 70 projects at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah. And we usually had about a 60 to 90 day turnaround time on projects. Some projects were like year-long projects, but most of them were like 60, 90 day projects. So they were very stressful. And they told me that after 2 years, I'd be able to move back. Well, 2 years came and gone, and I was denied my request to come back. And 3 years went
Never
by.
ends up being what they tell you, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the third year was when I was like, okay, this is crazy. Because at the end of the third year, my grandfather was dying. He was literally on his deathbed. He had contracted hay fever, and it was not good. He had lost over 100 pounds, and he was 94 years old, by the way. So I knew that the writing was on the wall. And my wife and I, who we have been trying to conceive a child for the longest time, our second child, we just had miscarriage after miscarriage. And one of the miscarriages, and my wife's probably going to kill me for telling the story. I've never told the story before, but it was January of 2016, and I had a project that I had to do in Alaska. And after we had lost that baby, they had to, remove it. And I couldn't be there for her. I tried to get someone to come in my spot, and they had no one. No one wanted to step up. Nobody would help me. They wouldn't help me delay the project. They told me I had to be there.
Wow.
And I missed a really important time with my wife, and her mom had to take off time from work, and there was already a strained relationship there. And it was really frustrating to me. And that's when I realized, I said, they really don't care about me.
Yeah,
they really
right.
just didn't care. And then they wrote me up. Yeah,
and then they wrote you up. Right.
Yeah. So I got written up. I lost a baby.
Wow.
It just, my grandpa was dying, and they just didn't care about me. And then the hook, line, and sinker was, I got a promotion. Okay, listen to this.
Yeah.
I became a project manager 3. They put a 3 at the end of my name.
Oh, a 3.
Yeah. With the 3, now you're important.
Yeah, right. You get the 3, you're good to go.
That's right. And here's the crazy part. They gave me a 25% raise. But here's the thing. They put me on a salary schedule, which I was like, okay, that's cool. But they ended up wanting me to still work overtime and not get paid for it. And then when I got my first paycheck and I found out that it was actually less money, because I was on average working about 22 to 27% of overtime, which is paid at time and a half.
Yeah.
So that was when I realized, I said, wow, they actually didn't care about me. They didn't care about the raise. They didn't care about the title. They cared about putting me on the salary scale so I get paid less.
Yeah.
And then the hook, line, and sinker was, I went to my boss at the time and I said, okay, great. And well, now he doesn't work there anymore, so I can say his name was Dan, and another one named Jim. And I said, well, guys, I guess finally I'll have work-life balance, because I'll be able to work from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And they looked at me and they said, Jeff, you know better. This isn't a 9 to 5 job. And that was when it all came in. And I spoke to my wife really hard about it. We prayed about it. We thought really hard. We, spoke to my parents, her parents, and just thought really hard. I remember crying. At 3:00 in the morning on February 29th of 2016, hovering my finger over that send button to send that resignation letter, thinking, is this how it ends?
Yeah.
And looking back on it now, it was the most horrible, horrific, stressful, probably the most depressing moment of my life. But at the same time, it was also the most rewarding, refreshing,
right,
liberating, empowering. This was a moment in my life that I finally said enough is enough, and I'm going to start paving my own way.
Yeah.
And it has been a hell of a journey since then. You know, I went up to the $1 million mark. I went down. I went back up, and you know, it's like it's like this here and there, and it's been really fun. I've hired and I've gone through hundreds of people on my team. Right now, as I stand, I have 51 people on my team, and it's just been a really fun adventure. And now I get to work with some of the greatest people on the planet. You know, I'm so honored to work with some of the biggest names in the industries, like Ryan Levesque. The Ask Method is one of my clients. I've had the honor of working with some of the top people in network marketing, like Alex Morton. And, you know, I just, it's just been so fun to do. And I really, really enjoy working with people that are obsessed about their niche, like their industry. Like that's the thing that doesn't matter what industry or niche you're in. Like for me, I just want to know that like you want to own that niche.
Yeah.
Like a great example of that is Tanner Larson. You guys should check him out. Tanner Larson. Yeah. He owns a company called Build, Grow, Scale. He runs the biggest e-com conference in, I said North America, and he corrected me and said universe.
I love it.
But people that are super passionate about what they do and the industry and the people that they serve, like I look at what I was doing before as a project manager, and I was fulfilling everyone else's dreams.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to work on my dreams. And now it's the best of both worlds. My dream, working with other people that I could only dream to meet, right?
Right.
And helping them. And what's cool about it is me helping them helps me, because now I get to say I've done all these cool work for these people, and it's just so fun. Yeah. So back to what you said, to finalize that.
Yeah.
If any of you guys ever feel like you're on that edge and you're like, man, is this really what I want to do with my life? And you just don't feel that burning passion every day when you wake up, you're not going to serve yourself, and you're definitely not going to serve others when you don't have that burning fire of passion and flame in what you do every day.
Yeah. 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 I've been there, and I think we've all been there, and some, more than not are not willing to make that decision. But, so it's just a great testimony of, from someone that has done it, for those that are, in that spot to take that leap. So,
and it's going to take sacrifice. I mean, I remember, I remember how hard that was to call up my parents and negotiate getting out of my lease early, because I lived in Portland, and literally having nowhere to go, driving as a 30-something-year-old man with a 3-year-old kid and a wife to move back in with my parents.
Right. Yeah.
That was the most humbling experience I've ever had as an adult.
Yeah, I believe it. But it's worth it. And look at, because of that, what you're doing today and where you're at and who you work with, like you said. So let's wrap this up. And what are one or two things that you can leave with the listeners to really help them to continue to move forward, that, some things that they could really take? And
let's get on to the greedy stuff. They want to see, okay, Jeff's the brand guy. What can I do for my brand? I'm going to do 3 things for you. Here's the 3 things that you should do to help develop out your brand. Number 1 is have a really strong content strategy. We already talked about how important it is to know your audience. Yep. Think about how you can add value to your audience. So if I'm sitting here telling you that I can help you build your brand, then I should be able to share with you some ways to help build your brand. Mm-hmm. And the easiest way to do that, guys, is just by recording a video just like this. You just whip out your phone. I mean, today the phones are so good, you don't even need a camera anymore. You literally... Right. Yeah, for real. Like I have a Google Pixel phone, and every time I take a picture or selfie somewhere, someone goes, "Oh my God, what kind of camera is that?" I'm like, Pixel, Google Pixel. If you have an iPhone or a Google Pixel, you are literally better off than 99.9% of the world. Yeah. And you whip out your phone, or you stick it on top of something like this is right now,
right?
And you just give some valuable tips, like, here you go. I'm shooting a tip right now. All you have to do is this, and then that's that. You can post that online. You can even I would recommend, by the way, using captions. You know, there's ways to do that. And then, by the way, you take that content, have it transcribed, and turn it into a post. Now you've got a post, you've got a video, right?
Yeah.
And guys, invest in getting some nice pictures of yourself. That's tip number 2. Okay. Tip number 2 is, if you want people to take your brand seriously, then you need to take your brand seriously.
Yep.
Right. So your personal brand is really important, because no matter what job you get, no matter what business you own, think about Elon Musk. Elon Musk could close up Tesla Motors right now and start a brand new electric only motorcycle place. And I bet you everyone would be in line putting down their $1,000 deposit for a motorcycle, guaranteed.
Right. Yep.
Just because he's Elon Musk,
yeah.
right? And look at Trump. Love him or hate him, the guy's selling 15 straws. 15 straws. I don't know if you knew this, but literally is it $15 or 15 straws? But you know, the whole like straws are banned thing out here in California, straws are banned.
Yep. Right.
And he literally just on his website has these little red straws that say Trump on them, and he's selling them for like I think it's $15 for a pack of 10 straws.
That is savage.
Like, thinking that's like over $1 a straw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and they're killing it. They made something like $500,000 or whatever from these stupid straws, and it's all because of his brand. And think about Richard Branson with Virgin and the things that he's built. Like you have to treat yourself as a client. So number 1 is get clear on your content. Write down some tips that could be very valuable to your audience. Don't worry about if, you know, a lot of people say, oh, why would they even need to hire me if I give them the tips? Trust me, people don't want to do squat. You give them the tips, they're going to pay you to do it for them. Okay.
Right.
Number 2, like I said, take your brand seriously. You know, take some pictures, take some video, start really thinking about the content that you put out there. The third is really making sure that you have a very strong brand promise. Your brand promise is so important, and people should be able to say, I know exactly what Nate does. I know exactly what Jeff does. So if somebody asks you what you do and you're sitting there going, which is like 90% of people, right?
Right.
Like, you need to get that refined, and it's very simple. You can use a 3-step formula. It's what you do, who you do it for, and what results that they get. So for me, I build personal brands for founders and CEOs who are ready to leverage their achievements in business to become influencers in their space. Boom. Right? I got that down. I could say that like a million times in a row, and it might be a little bit different every time, but that's the gist of it. Right? Yep. So have a clear brand promise. Make sure that you take your brand seriously. Make sure your website's up to date. Make sure your social profiles represent who you are and what you want people to think about you. Okay. Remember, everything you post online is either building your brand or it's destroying your brand. And you have that opportunity to do so. Yeah.
Those are some powerful tips that no doubt will be super helpful for the listeners. So thank you for that. What are some ways that we can follow you? We can find out more about you. You got anything that we can get our hands on to consume? Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you guys go to my website, it's just jeffjhunter.com. It's just literally Jeff, the letter J, hunter.com. I definitely have plenty of tips on how you can build your personal brand. And also, of course, I'd love for you guys to come check out the Savage Marketer podcast. It's just savagemarketer.com. Yeah. And I can't wait, Nate. I got to have you on the Savage Marketer podcast. Yeah, absolutely. You are savage. I can't wait either. So, well, thank you so much for taking the time, and really do appreciate it. And even though you didn't want to, when it popped up on your calendar, you still showed up anyways. I'm like oh, that guy. He's like, who's this dude? No, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And have a great day. Thank you.